Good evening, one and all. Yes, there's quite a lot of you already online. I know I said it was 8 p.m., but I know it's 8:05. And a good evening and welcome. Tonight's going to be absolutely amazing. We have one amazing lady coming on shortly, but I've just got a few little admin-y things to mention that will be this time next week will be Ask Me Anything type thing, and also in aid of prevent breast cancer. But I just want to give a bit of a background about this amazing athlete that we've got coming on. Currently, she's World Masters half marathon champion, and also silver medalist at the 10K. And that was achieved this April in Torun in Poland. I know, what a great name of a town, Torun, Torun. So I couldn't think of anything more wonderful than a town like Torun to go running. And please do add your questions in the comments to the side, so you can add your questions to our wonderful guests as we go along. But yes, an amazing runner. But the reason why we've got her on is not only is she current World Masters half marathon champion, but she's overcome some major setbacks, illnesses, and that's what we're here to share in terms of our learning experience, and hopefully help you guys and gals watching that we can overcome these as well. But without further ado, I'm going to give a big shout and hello to Cathy McCourt. Welcome to the show, Cathy.
Hi, Donato.
Hi, how are you doing there? I do love the lights you have in the background. It's not Christmas just yet, but I do love the bright lights.
Thank you. It's pink. I think it's my favorite color.
I love it. I love it. Absolutely brilliant. So I've got to give a big shout out and thank you for giving your time here, because
thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure meeting you.
It's great. We did have a pre-chat last week, and I'll say I'm really excited about this. We've got a lot to go through, but a lot of people watching may not know who you are, may not be in the Masters athletes scene. But as I mentioned, you are the current World Masters half marathon champion at the female F50 category. Is that right?
That's right, Donato. This year in April
this year, and also not forgetting silver medal at 10K as well.
Yeah, 10K was always my best distance, but this year I just didn't have the speed or the training. I was very limited in training this year after the year I've had. So I think the World Championships this year, there wasn't very much pressure on me at all, and certainly I didn't have pressure on myself. It was kind of a goal for me to get back from the illness it took in April of 2022 that nearly wiped me out completely.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we'll go on to those. One thing I wanted to ask is, obviously doing the half marathon and 10K at World Masters, that's quite demanding, isn't it? Because the races are within a few days of each other or a week of each other.
Yeah, there was just the 10K was on the Wednesday and the half marathon on the Saturday morning.
Wow. So how do you recover in that time to be able to race a hard, you've raced a hard 10K and then you've got to race a hard half marathon literally 3 days later?
I think because it was building back up, my coach and me decided to have a heavy block of training before it. So I was having to recover under pressure between sessions in training. So it was sort of what I knew was going to do, and I wanted to be kind of prepared for it. And I actually felt much better in the half marathon than I did even in the 10K.
Excellent. So just a bit of background. As I say, people may not know who you are. A little bit of a background about yourself, Cathy, who you are, where you're from, what professions you do, and what your sort of daily routine is. Over to you, Cathy.
So I'm a personal trainer and I own my own gym here in Lisburn. I'm from Belfast, but I've been living in Lisburn most of my life now. And I work as a sports nutritionist as well. And I do a lot of dietary work with clients. I work with obese and overweight people. I specialize in weight loss. And I also have started coaching athletes over the past 5 or 6 years now.
Right.
I'm really enjoying that, especially when I was injured and sick. It gave me some motivation to focus on other people's running instead of feeling sorry for myself and worrying about how unfit I was getting. So
I know.
A job I love. I absolutely love what I do. it's not actually like a job. I just feel like I'm helping people on a daily basis.
Yeah, yeah, I can relate to that absolutely, Cathy. So that's pretty full on, full time type stuff, as well as doing your training as well.
Yes,
Yeah,
I train most days twice a day. Either 2 runs, or I do a run and a gym session or a core session.
yeah.
So I keep myself pretty strong and pretty fit all year round. And then I work early mornings, afternoons, evenings. So
Mhm.
I just eat, sleep, and work and train
And repeat
and
every day.
repeat,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like opinions, Donato.
I was going to say there's yeah, I'm sure there's a story there, just like the Kenyans or whatever. But obviously this is in Lisbon in for those it's Lisbon in Ireland as opposed to Lisbon in Portugal. It's a different spelling and whatever, but sometimes with our sounds we hear different things. But it's Lisbon in Northern Ireland. Is that right, Cathy? Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'd love it to be in Portugal. I did over the past
Yeah,
years.
the climate would be different, wouldn't it, to Ireland?
I've done lots of warm weather training and absolutely love it. I
Yeah,
love the
yeah,
heat. Don't like this cold weather at all.
absolutely. But you say about the double training, just so people are clear in terms of right now you're 50 years of age, yeah?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
So
I know you wouldn't think it.
no, not at all. That's why sometimes people think that we're too old to do certain things or too young or whatever. I know obviously now I'm in my 60s myself, so for me I don't do double training days or whatever because my energy level's completely different. But we're all different. But I think for a lot of people they seem to think that they're past it when they get to 25 or 30, which is far from it, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
well,
we're living proof here.
I was retired by 25. I was junior, ran for Ireland as a junior international, and I didn't do anything for most of my senior career. So I only came back as almost just before I turned a master athlete. I only came back into running after almost 20 years out of the sport.
Yeah,
So I came back feeling fresh and feeling like I was just starting over.
yeah,
So I think the break, had I kept going at the level I was going as a junior, I don't think I would be here today doing what I'm doing. I
yeah.
think I needed that break to, to start again.
So almost like a newborn.
Yeah, just
Yeah, the
probably
excitement
been
of
before when
starting
I started
again.
properly.
Sorry, I'm half looking at comments. So I was going to say hello to Colin. There are quite a few people who are online live right now. So if anyone has questions that they want to ask Cathy as we go through. So that was a quick intro. But as I mentioned, in terms of why we're here, last year, I think for a lot of people, we go through what we might call dark times, depression or whatever, or illnesses, setbacks. And, there's things where maybe whether we're watching this live or watching this on replay, maybe it can help you watching this to overcome whatever's going through, because what Cathy's going to go through, I think it when Alistair Walker was telling me about this, I couldn't really believe it. When I spoke with you last week, Cathy, I was having goosebumps. I was quite astonished. So do you want to talk through, you've gone through where we want to go through in chronological order, because last year was one illness and also setback there. You also had a number of years before that a broken foot as well. So I don't know which one do you want to tackle first, or should we go through last year? What happened, where you were at?
Last year was just coming off an injury in 2021. I had a few years from probably 4 years before that. From 2018, I got a really, really bad injury at the World Championships in Malaga. And from that, I had 2 stress fractures and a torn calf. I had one thing after another. So I was practically injured for most of 3 to 4 years. And then I got back 2021. I started come back in the halfway through the winter, and I was doing pretty well and was heading for the World Championships in Tampere, Finland. And I was training really well for that and starting to get fitter by the day. And I went down to do a Sunday run. I was down just starting off my 16-mile run. I was hoping to run the half marathon in Tampere, and I took an awful pain in my head, and I thought, I'm pain down the side of my face, and I'm never sick, but I'm always injured. So injuries I can cope with, and I know how to deal with. I've had that many injuries, I can sort of, cope with it. But I came back and I thought I couldn't run at all, and I could hardly drive up the road. And as I was driving up the road, the car started, I was starting to see double, and I had to pull over to the side of the road and get somebody to come and get me. I knew I was very ill. There was something serious wrong. So I ended up in hospital, and they said I had a really good heart rate, really good blood pressure to keep me in for observation. And they gave me medication. It seemed to be okay. Got out of hospital 2 days later, and I was in bed and jumped up in the middle of the night. I thought somebody had shot me through the head. And from then I was basically in and out of hospital for 8 months. And they did the MRI scans and CT scans, and I had a serious brain injury, and it really knocked me for 6. So I never take medication or never take anything, and they said it was a subarachnoid hemorrhage, and they had to put me on this stuff. They thought it was trigeminal neuralgia at the start until they scanned me, and I was totally out of it in medication. I don't really know a lot. I can't really remember lots of what was going on and what was happening around me, but I couldn't eat for a while. And when I got out of hospital the first time, I had to have all my food pureed. I lost power down the right side. I couldn't dress myself. I couldn't shower. My sister had to come and get me showered. I lost my mobility, and I was just very, very ill.
Right.
So that was the start of 9 months of basically hell, is what you could call it.
It's just, I mean, the whole thing there, it's so basically you went from being totally fit, super athletic, getting ready for the world chat, and then all of a sudden you've gone to, it wasn't a stroke, was it? It was a brain injury that you had?
Yeah, no, there wasn't a stroke. They said it's a subarachnoid hemorrhage. I thought it was trigeminal neuralgia.
Wow.
At the start, they were putting me on medication for that. And then when they scanned me and did the MRIs and CT scans, and then I got, this consultant told me, no exercise at all, and my heart rate, and and I asked could I walk, and I thought walking would be great. So then the physio I went to was Stargagan in Carlow. I've been going to him. He looked after me for years. With the lack of power on one side, I was panicking that would finish me running. That I wouldn't run again, obviously, with such a weak side of my body. And the consultants and doctors told me not to exercise to keep the heart rate low. And I went to Stargagan during this time, and he said, no, you need to start rehabilitating yourself, starting to get the muscles moving, starting to exercise, starting to do things. And I did with him a lot of work, and I started then getting more mobile once I could walk, and and then it was very, very difficult, because when you're used to doing so much and then you can't do the simple things that you take, it puts life into perspective. I wasn't able to work, and I'm self-employed. I wasn't able to train. And I spent a lot of time in bed, at home, something that I never do. In fact, people would say to me, I never sit in the seat for 2 minutes.
And as you say, your food had to be pureed so you could eat it. So you had basically loss of being able to chew and move your mouth correctly.
And chewing and slabbering.
Drinking. So things, it's a bit like, and I'm not belittling what you've been through, but if you've had a filling in your mouth and it's all numb on one side, and you try drinking some water or something, it's water just spills down to one side, and you don't even know it's falling down the side.
Well, that's why I was for months. And that feeling like I couldn't feel anything, and it was very embarrassing, because like people were practically feeding me, and I had to get all my food pureed, and it was like an hour to eat a wee simple bit of food, and the medication was making me sick, and then I was vomiting, and then I had to eat
Yeah,
more, and I couldn't drink. And people that know me, clients, friends, I'm addicted to tea. I love my green tea,
yeah,
and could not drink tea for weeks. I think that was, and yet the only thing it was, I didn't feel like it. It was so well.
yeah,
But,
yeah. But what was the feelings going, what was going through your mind and stuff at that time? What were you thinking? Were you just thinking about staying alive, or was your mind on, I'm going to have to miss this next race or running? What was going through your mind?
It's bizarre because I never thought I'm going to die here, or I never thought, at the time I'm really ill. I didn't really think. I just kept thinking I need to get out of this state of mind. I need to get back running. It was bad. I was lying horizontal, not being able to move, and out of my head on medication. And yet my only thoughts were, I need to get back training. I need to get back to work. I need to get out of this bed. And for me, for somebody that's never been ill, it put me into a dark, dark place. I would say for a good few months, a black cloud came over me, and I found it incredibly difficult to get out of. I don't know whether you would call it depression, low mood, whatever, but it was so, so difficult to just get through one day at a time.
It's clear, as you mentioned, dark clouds, whether it be depression, whatever types of depression, it's clearly not good, but you've come through that. I mean, when did you start to think? I mean, you mentioned Star Geek, and I guess we should give a bit of an intro who Star Geek is. He's a physiotherapist over in Ireland, and he's worked with some of the top stars in athletics and sports around the world, hasn't he? But he got in touch with you, didn't he, initially on one of your injuries?
I was on the marathon racing team quite a few years ago, must be 12 years ago, and the Irish team were having a day at his practice throughout the clinic, Carlo, and I had a problem with my foot then, which turned out a stress fracture, and I asked him down there, could I come and see him? And from that day up until this day, he's looked after all my injuries. And I had a broken foot at one point that the doctors were putting pins in. And Star said I'd never seen a break so bad. I did it in the Europeans on the track in the race. And I ran 5 laps with a broken foot. So I've done some crazy things just to get medals.
I was going to say, did you not feel any pain?
Pain, I never felt. I thought I'd been shot through the foot. But
was that during the race or after the race?
No, it was during the race it happened.
Right. Wow.
And I was in the lead, and I didn't want to stop, but I didn't know what happened either. I just heard the crack, and the pain was horrendous. And I think I went into a blackout, and then ran 5 laps with a broken foot and limped over the line to get a medal.
Wow.
But Star fixed that foot. They were going to put pins in it up here, and the consultant said to me that you'll walk with a limp if you don't get pins in it, and you'll certainly not run again. And Star said to me, get out of hospital and come to Rialta Clinic tomorrow morning. And I got people to drive me to Carlo, and I stayed there a week. And Star and his daughter tractioned the foot, and I was back running within a few weeks.
Wow. That's incredible. I mean, and also when the doctor said to you when you had the hemorrhage that you should rest and not exercise, Star said you need to start exercising and get back. So clearly being in touch with someone who's in the sports industry and knows athletes rather than a generic health.
And it's having
medical thing.
Somebody that's, when he's worked so well for me for many years, I sort of had a lot of trust and a lot of confidence in what he was telling me, because it always worked. But when I got back, I started walking and power walking last August, and thought that was me healthy, getting on the right road. And I blacked out and fell really badly down at Crawfordsburn, and I ended up back in hospital last August for another 7 days, and they thought I'd taken another problem with my head. But so that was a bit of I think I was well on the way to recovery, and then I damaged my knee so badly and my glute that it caused a lot of problems.
Right.
And
That was from the fall. That was
that
from the
was,
fall.
yeah, from the fall.
Right.
So
Right.
I didn't really get back then from April last year properly until I started back kind of jogging, but not properly training in November. So it was
Right.
really from January this year that my coach and me sat down and had a plan that
Hmm.
I could get back, you know,
Right. Right.
definitely get back running. And I said, right, I need a goal. So the goal was to go to Poland.
Let's go and do this.
So let's just
Yeah. Yeah.
let's be like
Let's go to Poland. I do love Poland. I've only raced there once, and that was a half marathon, but nowhere near the speeds that you run at, Cathy, which is quite incredible. But I did see a quote from yourself saying that champions really come from ideal circumstances, which is a brilliant quote, because clearly you are 1000% that you've not come from ideal circumstances. But you mentioned about the dark clouds overview. At what point, what made you turn and sort of come out of the dark clouds? I mean, I've worked professionally in the mental health sector, and some people say that it's just a decision away. Others say it's a process. Others say that it's different for different people. What brought you out from the dark clouds? What cleared the dark clouds for you, or was it a series of events?
I probably thought, I've no choice here. You've only a choice to either get well or lie here and feel like this for the rest of my life. And there was no way
So
that
it's A or B.
yeah.
Yeah.
My dad always taught me to fight hard and never give up. And I sort of thought, right, this is it. I need to do something. And it was probably a long struggle. And the doctors were saying, "Oh, don't do this, keep the heart rate." But I kind of did a lot myself. I sort of rehabbed my body along with Star trips down to Carlo, and I started feeling a lot stronger and started feeling mentally stronger. And then my coach, Sarah Havern, she gave me so much help during that time as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then once January came and I got a structure and got a goal, it sort of seemed normal then to get back into normal training.
Like you say, your father was about fighting through. I mean, literally, he was a fighter, wasn't he? He was a boxing champion, wasn't he, in his time back in the 60s?
Olympic, Commonwealth, and European.
So there's clearly a fighting spirit in there, Cathy.
Well, I learned that from very young. I went to gyms from I was 3 and 4 years of age, and I was in awe watching my dad train and do one-arm pull-ups, and people were doing 2-arm pull-ups, and he was doing 1-arm pull-ups, and I was thinking, why is he doing that? And I was small, and then from no age, Dad says that I was doing press-ups with him, and I could do press-ups nearly as soon as I could walk. So I was used to seeing people train, and I was used to seeing, people train hard. And it was like I grew up with a champion, and I kind of wanted to be one. And I always said, no matter what sport you're in, no matter what you do, you need desire, you need discipline, you need dedication, and you need determination. And if you don't have those ingredients, it's like a cake without the mixture.
Exactly. And the cake won't grow, would it, if you don't have the right mixture? It's funny you mentioned the 4Ds, and I actually done a video many moons ago discussing the 4Ds. So we all say the same thing. But did you say you were doing press-ups at the age of 3?
Well, I was no age, might have been 4 or 5. Daddy said that he used to get down on the floor beside him and start doing them. And then when I was like older, I used to be able to do these press-ups really well. And I used to think I'm really great at press-ups. And then Dad says to me, "Yeah, you're doing them from you were about 4." That's what I never go on to the 1-arm pull-ups.
Yeah. You're already.
I remember saying to my dad one time, we were he was training at home, and there wasn't anything fancy training back in those days. And he had this bar that looked like it was about to fall off the ceiling. And he used to do the pull-ups, 1-arm and 2-arm on it. So I got one at home here, and I started doing the 2-arm press-ups, and I got pretty good at those.
Wow. How amazing is it, to have such a wonderful role model who's actually one of your parents, so you've got someone to look up to all the time. I mean, it goes without saying, and I'm just going to go through some of the comments. You'll love some of the comments already coming through, Cathy. So I always say it's important to have a role model that you believe in and trust in and go for, and that helps. Obviously you had the perfect role model with your dad.
I was so lucky and probably privileged, and that's why people say to me now, like, how do you keep going at your age? How do you keep disciplining yourself to do what you do?
Yeah.
Well, I've grew up watching, my dad train, what it took for him. I've grew up watching him coach. I used to sit and I was mesmerized by athletes training, and I've just had it in my blood from being no age. It doesn't make it easier. People used to say to me, "What's okay for you coming back from injury? You've got your dad, or you've got these genetics, or coming back from injury. There's no shortcuts in this game.
No,
it doesn't matter if you had 4 legs, you'd still have to struggle. It's just a hard game, and especially running. Yourself, Donato. You can be in the best shape of your life and something happen, and it doesn't always go to plan. And sometimes I haven't been in a great place physically, or I haven't been as fit as I would like to be, and I've run very, very good races. So but I know one thing, I always feel better when I'm prepared. Preparing, not failing to prepare is preparing to fail.
Absolutely.
Say that, when I used to complain about things, he says, well, you haven't prepared, you need to get back to the drawing board.
Well, it's a quote that I often use. I mean, in my day job with project management, project planning, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. So it's the same thing. So obviously you can't plan for everything. Some of the comments that have been coming through, you mentioned the genetics. I've often had genetics mentioned to me as well, but my parents came from a farming background, and both were sort of labourers and have gone through that. But I think with a lot of immigration population, there's a very fighting spirit in their determination. So often it might not be in the sporting arena, it can be just in general in life. I think, those who grew up in the 30s and 40s and even 50s, it was tough times for a lot of people. And I think sometimes that's probably what's lacking in our society today, and maybe looking at role models like yourself, Cathy, and other masters runners can help a lot of people. But some of the comments coming through, you'll love these. So although I've bagsed this one, Alistair. So Alistair says he's got the film rights to your story, he said. I think Alistair Walker. I'm guessing that's Alistair Walker, because it just says, it's just got people's first names appearing. So I'm guessing that's Alistair Walker, film rights. No, I've got film rights, Alistair. And Devron, who's an American coach, he says he's loving the discussion here. Thank you both. And one sort of random question, which I think I mentioned it to you as well. So we'll come back about the overcoming illness or whatever it is. I was asking you exactly the same thing, which someone who calls himself the special one, with a Mourinho emoji, Jose Mourinho. We were talking about Portugal earlier. So Jose, I think I'll call you Jose, Jose Mourinho, the special one. What's your current favourite running shoe, Cathy?
Oh dear, I think Nike might shoot me here.
You're not sponsored.
What I say.
Are you sponsored by Nike or anyone?
Well, to be honest, I'm still sitting on the fence with the carbon plated shoes.
Yeah.
I did buy them when I hadn't run for quite a few years, raced properly for about 3 or 4 years. So the shoes that I ran in 2018, 2017, 2016, I ran all my best times and all my best races, and my shoes back then were like flip-flops. They were that minimal.
Yeah.
So when I came back and I was standing one day at a park run and everybody was wearing these Nike fancy shoes, I thought, my God, Nike must be giving shoes away free at this park run. But times had changed, and there were obviously the carbon plated shoes, and I have bought them and I have ran in them. And I do race the half marathon in a carbon shoe.
Yeah.
But I'm not probably jumping about them as a lot, as a lot of people say they take minutes off their times and that.
You're not as excited about it as
I'm
some
not
of the others.
I like the alpha flies. Alistair Walker, that I coach, he loves the vapor flies, adores them, and I have 2 pairs in the box that I haven't worn. I just don't really like them. And then, what would you say? One shoe doesn't fit all.
Yes.
Everybody's different. So whatever I say maybe works for, the opposite will work for somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do like the Alpha Flies for the half marathon. But I train mostly in either my Asics Nova Blast or the New Balance Fresh Foam. They're probably my 2 everyday shoes.
Fresh Foam version 3, was that right? Or
version 4?
Version 4. Okay, yeah. So quite a variety of shoes, and it's interesting not training in carbon plates, because I do see some people who train in carbon plates, racing carbon plates, and everything's about carbon plates. And I mean, obviously there's people have views, but this discussion isn't about our shoes, but coming back to overcoming that illness. You mentioned, so there seemed to be a bit of a common thread of that when you're in a hospital and there's generic, and I've had the same happen to me, where a general doctor or general practitioner gives you certain advice and it's sort of erring on the cautious side. But then when you speak to a sports therapist or a sports specialist in the medical industry, they'll say something contrary to it or completely off scale. But every time you've spoken to a professional sports medical person, physiotherapist, it's worked for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think too, I have to be very careful, because when I'm injured, certainly back in maybe 2015, 2016, I had a lot of injuries back then, stress fractures. I tore my calf, and I had a foot injury. I had an edema in the foot, and I had no patience. So I would have just went, oh, he said rest 6 weeks, so I'll rest 1, and just tore on and got, and sometimes you have to be careful.
Ooh,
I've learned as I've got older, not that I'm getting any wiser, but certainly when you're injured, you have to have patience. I never had patience. Everything's through the roof or through the basement. There didn't seem to be any balance in between. I was either running brilliant and winning everything, or I was injured and not doing anything. And I think one thing my dad always told me too, that when you're injured, stay patient and believe, that this is a process and your body's slowing you down for a reason. Because I would have, in the early days, if I get injured, I would have just then went off the rails, eating junk and just gone out and doing the complete opposite of what I've been doing maybe 2 weeks before. And my dad used to always say, it's like having a flat car, and then he says you're going to slice the other 3 just to make things worse. So you have to make adjustments and not excuses. There's no excuse to not train or not stay healthy or not stay fit when you're injured. And that's one of the big things I've learned, especially over the last few years. There's no point making excuses and saying, oh, I didn't run well because of this, because of that. I was really, really fit at one point, and I tore my calf. I think it was about 2017, 2016. And I spent 6 weeks with not an inch of running, and I cross-trained twice a day. And I was in the gym every day trying to build up again my calf. And I came out, and after 2 days running, I ran 29 minutes on grass for a 5-mile tempo with ease. So I know that I was able to make adjustments back then, And today I try to do that. So there's no point me saying, oh, I'm not running well because I had a brain injury last year. Today I'm fine. So it's just what I'm about.
It's moved on, hasn't it?
It's moved on. You can't live in, oh gosh, I had a broken foot 2 months ago. I have to do what I can today. Yesterday's history and tomorrow's a mystery. So it's only about what I'm doing today that's important.
I love. Go on, sorry, Cathy.
And also, something that I probably didn't do when I was injured was enjoyed my running. I've seen me winning races and races and races. I think my coach said one time I won 16 races or something consecutive. But even when I ran or won a race, by the time I had got to the car, I had moved the goalposts. So at the start of the day, I wanted to win the race. That was a big goal. As soon as it crossed the line, and by the time I got to the car, the goal changed. I thought, God, I could have run a course record if I had done this, if I had done that. I should have went in. I should have done, So I was always trying to get fitter, faster, stronger, and not enjoying the moment. You know, it's a gift to be able to do what we do. There's an awful lot of people. I sat in that hospital last year and saw people much younger than me and not having the ability to do the things that make runners so happy, you know.
Yeah.
And running for me is a good part of my mental well-being. I've been brought up training all my life, and it's part of my oxygen or part of my daily medication. No medication would give me the buzz that running and training does. And certainly racing. So I train to race. I don't, you know, just train just for my health. I'm one of these people that needs to have a goal, needs to have, you know, I like being under pressure. I like something to go for. And that was one of the ways I always got myself back from injury, was to have a goal, no matter how unfit I was at the time.
Something to aim for.
Something to aim for, even if it's a small goal.
Yeah.
You know, I would say to people, get something. If you have a coach, sit down, get the next race or the next place to go, or, you know, do something that motivates you. Because I need motivation. You know, if I'm not training, I'm hyper. I'm climbing the walls. So when somebody's liable to be dead.
Oh, get out of the way. So you were literally going from fasting or famine, so winning everything, or being injured, and now you've sort of got away from that and you're moving. So that went down and you're moving them hopefully back up together. Yeah. So you'll get back to winning ways. The quote you mentioned.
I've learned too, you know, it's just important. Some people, things work differently, but the coach always said to me, and he, you know, like, I always raced better than I sort of trained, always got myself up for races. So I would have always like had some sort of goal or plan, you know, to get back.
Absolutely. When you mentioned, there was a famous quote, I don't know whether it was Aristotle or some other Greek person, but I know Kung Fu Panda popularized this quote, because you mentioned yesterday's history and tomorrow is a mystery. That's why today is a gift, because it's called the present. Yeah. So as it's a present, or the present, it's our gift for today. And as you mentioned, you know, it's living in today. So a few people have come back in, a few more masters. I do recognize some of the names here. So Paul Coughlin is a masters 55. He's been out for a while, so I know he's very keen to know. And we're going to go through towards the end, Paul, some of the 5 key tips that Cathy has in terms of overcoming things. But one of the questions that has come in, you mentioned about strength training and working on stuff. How much strength training would you advise? And it says here, the average runner to do. So not what you do, is what would you advise an average runner to do in terms of strength training? Do they need to do any?
Well, again, it mightn't work for everybody, but I would say twice a week you need to do some sort of good strength session, a full strength session, and maybe little bits of core strength exercises in between. Before I run, usually I would do some core strength, and I work a lot with the bands on the speedboard. Stargate invented this speedboard.
Oh, yes. I was Googling that. Yeah.
Plantar flexion, dorsiflexion.
You jump back and forth and pull up things up and down, and
and
it looks like hard work to me.
It's hard work, but I've worked on it for years, and it's a lot of I used it a lot this year, getting back for strength. And
so that works on the dorsiflexion.
Yeah, you're training your body, the muscles, the way you run, dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. You don't stand with your feet flat, so it speeds up the recovery. The
recovering process. So is there any key workouts that you would do when you say twice a week? What kind of strength training would that be when you say a core session? Is that like 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours?
I'd probably do 2 1-hour sessions a week, where I would do squats and weights and bands on the speedboard, plyometrics. I would do 2 probably 1-hour sessions, and then most evenings I would do some kind of band stretches, strengthening. Most evenings.
Right, got it. So that's quite a lot. People will think, wow, where am I going to fit those 2 1-hour sessions? But I do recall, because a lot of people say they're short on time.
You have to make adjustments, not excuses, Donato.
Exactly. Yes. You see, we haven't scripted this, guys, by the way. If you are watching this, you know, Cathy is not in the room next to me. She is actually in another country. So, yeah, no excuses. So I'm glad you said that. We haven't scripted it, but I was just
And it doesn't have to be an hour. You know, two strength sessions could be 40 minutes, 30 minutes. Just depends what works for you.
Yeah.
But I think it's important, especially if you're getting to the right mature age. You need
absolutely.
to
You have to make time. I mean, I did see someone, I said, oh, they did say, if you're short on time, here's something you can quickly do. And I said, well, if you don't have time, then if you can't do that warm up before a run, then cut the run short. So if you've got a plan of 45 minutes run and you can't afford a 10-minute warm up beforehand, then you cut the run down to 30 minutes. You still do the warm up, because if you miss the warm up, then that continues every day. I think that's sort of leading towards maybe some injury waiting to happen if you're not warming up correctly before a training run.
Yeah, that's true.
Depending what the session is. But yes, so I know, as I mentioned, Paul Coughlin's been out, unfortunately, with a number of things. And at the moment, he's got a broken foot as well. So I don't know if you caught that, Paul. Earlier on, Cathy was talking about the foot injuries that she's had. And obviously, she's here winning world championships to that. But I want to sort of bring
the broken foot that I had. The consultants up here told me that I possibly wouldn't run again. It was that bad, and I got back running, no bother, and I've had no problems with it ever since.
You see, never give up, Paul. You never know, but we'll see. But what I wanted to go through, so we're going through a hell of a lot here, Cathy, and I'm really grateful for this. But do you have, and we did prepare this sort of thing, you know, 5 key tips for helping people, a number of key tips of how you would recommend to help people, because you've overcome major illnesses, major injuries, setbacks over the years. We haven't even gone through that. These are just the sort of more recent ones. But have you got sort of key tips that people, you know, what are the key things that people should be following to help overcome or come through what their setbacks are having?
I think the main thing, you know, I've learned, especially over the last few years, is to have patience. I didn't have patience. I must have been under the bed when patience was given out.
Yes.
But you have to stay patient and listen to your body. You know, I would have before, as I did, run 5 laps with a broken foot. You know, wouldn't do that today.
Yeah.
And, you know, things do improve, and they can improve pretty quickly. If you get stressed and anxious, and I always, I couldn't have missed one day from training. Could not.
Yeah.
I was going to miss one day from a run. It was like the end of the world. And stress and anxiety only makes the injury or the problem worse, and especially illnesses and stuff. You can't afford stress or anxiety. It doesn't. It slows up the healing process, and you need to do everything to improve. And I would say to people as well, if you're injured, up your supplements. Take the appropriate supplements. I take quite a lot of everything, you know, and it helps me just on a daily basis. When you're training hard and you're working hard, you do need to substitute your body with certain things. And one of the things Sarah, my coach, got me onto was beetroot juice. I take it religiously.
Beetroot, it's funny that, because I eat beetroots.
So I've got to take beetroot juice every day. I find it. And for hemoglobin, it's like a liquid iron, and I mix it with pure orange or citric acid. It's like a combination, and it's good for fatigue and tiredness, and it's helped me over the years.
Okay. Next on the list, what you got those?
So don't make excuses, make adjustments. No matter how injured you are, if you have a broken foot, you can aqua jog, you can swim, you can do something. There's always means of staying fit, you know. And I'm not just saying this; I'm saying this from experience. I've done it many times, been injured. I've cross-trained, I've aqua jogged, I've been in the gym. You know, you can keep strong. You can keep doing something. You don't have to give up.
Excellent. I'm loving these.
The next
Anything
thing,
else? Yeah.
you have to believe. You have to believe you can do something. You
Yeah.
know, there's no point. Believe, what is it? Believe to achieve.
Yes.
You know, if you don't believe you're going to do it, you won't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my dad used to always say to me, you know, Cathy, believe. If you believe you're going to win, you're halfway there.
Yeah.
And it's true. All these old sayings and wise sayings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you don't believe, you know, you have to change your thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. It is brilliant. I was going to say, Cathy, do you have a light switch you can put on? I think we started off brightly. The main light switch. Yeah.
Okay.
If you got a main light switch.
That better?
Yes, we can see you now. Hello. Sorry, I thought I better mention that because you might have noticed I quickly had because my light, as you can see, I put me light on earlier just so because when it gets dark here. But that, I mean, there's some amazing things. I have had some comments here from Sarah Havron who said if you really want to achieve something, you'll find a way, and otherwise you'll settle for an excuse. So the 5 key things I've got written here, check me if I've missed anything, Cathy, is patience is key. We need a lot of patience. Number 2 is to try and reduce the stress and anxiety, because the stress and anxiety reduces the speed at which our body can recover. And keep it simple. Whatever we're doing, keep it simple. Make adjustments in terms of how we're training, how we come back. Get yourself a goal, something to aim for, and then believe it to achieve it, which is some great tips there, which is amazing. Thank you for that, Cathy. So the big question now, as we're coming to a close, is what next for you? You've achieved, you could say you've achieved everything, but knowing you, because you said that story where, and I know the feeling because I've done it myself, and I'm sure there's other people watching, is your goal was to achieve a certain time or win a particular race. And by the time you've achieved that time and finished the race or won it, and you walk back to the car, you've got another goal going on. So you're not enjoying the moment as such, but you must have something next that you're going for or aiming for.
Yeah, well, this last 7 weeks has probably been the major setback with my dad's death. It's probably been the worst thing that's ever happened to me. So
yeah,
at the minute, I'm trying to train on a day. Some days I feel better than others, and some days training's going well, and it's a bit inconsistent. But I do know from, all the time with my coach, Sarah Havern, that consistency is the key. So if I keep doing it, things will improve when the head and my body are in one piece. But
right.
The next goal, I'm actually running a half marathon in 2 weeks' time. And I've missed a lot of training for that. And I'm probably not in the shape I thought I would have been.
Yeah.
But I'm prepared to push the barriers and, again, test myself, because if I don't, I'll never know. And there's no point in sitting. I would say to people too, when you're coming back from injury, there's no point in sitting waiting until you're fit, because you may never get the opportunity. This game's tough.
And as you said earlier, when you turn up with no expectation, you might pleasantly surprise yourself.
Yeah, because the only person I'm racing is myself.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter. I used to think, what will people think if I run this, or if I don't win, or if I don't do this? At the end of the day, every runner's more interested in their own running. They're not really worried about what other people are doing. So I'm really racing myself and being the best I can. And that's the only way for me that I can improve. It doesn't matter what other people are doing. You have to get, sit down with your coach if you have one. A coach works for me. Sarah's been with me for years, and, and then get a plan and, just keep doing it.
Keep pushing on. I mean, what will be amazing though is
your comfort zone. My daddy used to always say, this is not about comfort seeking, it's about character building. And sometimes you have to go and put yourself on a start line when you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure you'll do amazing, Kevin. The icing on the sugar will be is you'll come in with amazing time, and you will know 100% that you can do better.
Yeah, well, the Europeans is in September, October, and I'm supposed to be going there deadly. So
yeah.
Hopefully I'll get there. But even if this year's not my best because of my circumstances, I know everything I do this year will be good training towards a better next year. And I'm just hoping to stay injury free and get a winter. I haven't had a proper winter training the past 5 years, a cross country season. I find it's really important for all running to get good cross country in the winter and come out strong in March, April time for the road season. And that will be the plan for next year.
Excellent. So you still get in the thick of it in cross country through the winter.
Yeah, I love getting the hard graft, and you feel good after a cross country race. You know, people say, "Oh, that muck and those cold and the wet and the snow," but it toughens you. It toughens you physically, but I think the cross country season toughens you mentally.
Yeah.
You know, you come out into the better weather in the spring, and you feel you've achieved something.
Yeah, and I'm not into that myself. I mean, I won't go there, Cathy. With obviously, I think we could do a 2 hour.
When you get to this,
we'll do. And obviously, I didn't realise that Sarah is online now watching this, and it was Sarah who was leaving the comments. Your coach, which is brilliant. Thank you for being on, Sarah. Maybe you need to coach me how I overcome my fear of cross country running, because I was scarred from a little boy forced to do cross country running, as I'm sure a lot of children in the 60s were forced to do it. So I've got no happy memories.
Train hard to not when race easy.
I like running up and down steep roads during the winter, not through mud and rain. So I'm happy running in rain. I have ran in the worst marathon in 100 years. So snow, wind, rain. So I'm fully familiar with bad weather, and finished somehow. Although 50% of the elite field didn't finish. So that's how bad the weather was. But no, enough about the weather, Cathy. So I think it's amazing what you have. And Alistair's here said, brilliant interview. And Sarah's saying that, you've got a wonderful ability to, you can race yourself fit. That's what I was effectively saying, is you're racing yourself fit. And I do know a good friend of mine, Lawrence, at the weekend ran his first half marathon since last year. And he's just turned 60, and he ran a 1:55 with just literally about a month's worth of training. So he knows he can go quicker as well. So everybody who's watching, and hopefully Cathy's giving you some great inspiration. I've been inspired, and that's why we brought her on. We'll get you on another time, Cathy. I think we'll talk more about the ins and outs and the beauties of maybe cross country running, and some of the other
the cross country. You can just use it as a session. A lot of my races I use as training runs. So when people would say, "Oh, you didn't run a PB," most of my races during the year are training runs. And then I focus on certain races that I'm going to target. So you have to keep your training personal, and you have to know your own goal and your own plan, because everybody's different.
Yeah, absolutely. And all I can say, it's been an absolute joy, Cathy, and I'm loving to welcome you back on another podcast in the near future. And for everybody watching, hopefully you found something new. So if you're watching it on replay, because there'll be hundreds, if not thousands, you watch on replay, leave some comments on what your key takeaways are from this, and anything you might want to ask Cathy. So either myself or Cathy will come online and answer those questions for you. So everybody's saying thank you. Keith Johnson saying thank you, Cathy, and good luck for hitting your future running and life goals.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Keith. And everybody who's been watching, I've really enjoyed this, and I'm very grateful for so many of you coming on live, online, right here, right now, in August holiday season time, when a lot of people are just away in Portugal or Spain, enjoying the sunshine. But thank you so much, Cathy, and I'm looking forward to chatting to you again very soon. So bye everybody, and I'll chat to you in a moment, Cathy, once we go offline. So thank you, everyone, and take care. Love you all lots, and see you all very soon. Bye.